What up, guys? This is Auddy. I'm here with Carp. We're going to be
Hello.
doing like a little overview of our Chapter 1 times that we just got for RE5, 1-1, and 1-2. This video here is just kind of like showing our times that we have. But so in the past, on the leaderboards, the best times that you could get for Chapter 1-1 was 8:14, and that was just kind of like the standard time that everyone used to get on PC. And then on Chapter 1-2, the time was usually a 2:48, but Snow and Chase were able to get a 2:47, and so that was kind of like the two times that we were like looking at. But we knew that at 8:13 was possible on 1-1 due to us. What was it, 2016? That you came down here from PAX South, or 2017? One of those two.
16 or 17.
We did some split screen stuff on the Games for Windows Live version. We ended up getting an 8:13. And so we were like, okay, well, 8:13 is possible, but do we know how possible? Because we were doing it on split screen, which means no host lag, no latency, et cetera, makes door kicks faster, some things like that. So we were like, okay, let's try to get 8:13, and then obviously try to tie the 2:47 on Chapter 1-2. As you can see here, we have 8:11 and a 2:45, and you might think, wow, okay, that's like a big difference between what you just said.
Yeah.
And the reason there's a big difference is because we stumbled across some tech after doing Chapter 1-2 and utilizing the auto splitter and in-game timer and a modified version of the auto splitter that I created for segmented. We started looking at our times, and we were noticing, like, okay, you know, our sum of best is this or that. Why are we not, like, able to get further and, like, you know, actually tie these times that we're, like, seeing Snow and Chase and other people get? We started really investigating Snow and Chase's video in Chapter 1-2, because that was the one that we were currently on when we were figuring, like, why, you know, how are we losing time? And we learned something from them, and Snow's probably known about this for ever and just never like talked about it, but they were definitely using some tech that we had no clue about. Once we learned about that tech, we implemented it into our gameplay, and that's how we were able to achieve these times. So we're going to kind of go through 1-1 and then go through 1-2 and just talk about the different sections and how that helped through certain parts, and then other parts where we are just using strats that for some reason only we're using, and just et cetera, et cetera. We're just going to kind of skim through our entire runs here for you guys. So this is Chapter 1-1. I'm going to let Carp just kind of take it away for us.
Right, so the thing that we figured out from Snow and Chase is 1-2 was, so in the very first area of 1-2, we noticed they're just way faster there. Like, we're looking at their movement, we're looking at the best movement we were getting, and we're like, it doesn't look drastically different. But we're losing like 0.7 seconds there just in that first section. We couldn't understand how that was possible until we noticed something kind of unusual about their movement in that video. We noticed a certain point where it looks like Chris warps forward a bit. And we weren't sure what this meant, because you do see things like this sometimes with the online play where, you know, things will look kind of strange on the other person's screen or whatnot. And we actually only had the Sheva perspective to look at for this. But after messing around enough, we figured out what was actually going on here was they were doing a movement technique that actually causes each character to push each other along and actually move faster than their normal maximum speed. So this is accomplished by basically getting it to where for both the host and the non-host to appear like they're ahead of the other character on their own screen. So normally in this game and most online games, you'll have the host perspective it'll look a little different than the non-host perspective. So, for example, if you're the non-host and you get up to a ladder or a door or any kind of interactable, even if from the non-host perspective they're ahead, the host will actually be able to interact with it first usually. So what we're doing here is we're kind of taking advantage of this to where, and you're going to see it here in a moment in 1-1, we utilize this all over the place, and we utilize it right away in 1-1, is we try to sync up the character movement in such a way that on the host screen, they are ahead, and on the non-host screen, they're ahead. So, and you stay very close to each other with this movement, and it causes this pushing that I was talking about, where both characters are actually moving faster than their maximum speed, so the game's basically unable to determine who's supposed to be ahead. It's trying to push, I guess, the host. I'm not exactly sure how it works technically speaking, but I guess it's trying to push somebody ahead that should be ahead, and it can't. Because you're moving perfectly in tandem, so it's actually just shoving both characters at a faster speed.
Like our hitboxes are fighting each other, almost.
Yeah, and you can see this at some points. You can actually see, usually for the non-host, it's actually very difficult to maintain the state of that movement. Like, you're constantly trying to get pushed out of it, and you can actually feel that.
And to further kind of explain how we figured out that this was even happening was, like he said, when we watched Chase's point of view, because that's all we had was the Sheva point of view. We also noticed that he was very much so going out of his way to get in front of Chris, like on purpose, rather than just like running in a straight line to where they needed to go. And we were like, why is he doing that? He's doing that on purpose for some reason. And that was another thing that like tipped us off to being like, okay, maybe there's something that they're doing. Maybe this is like a thing. So we've gone into calling this Tandem Ditman. There's a tech move thing that makes you run faster in Resident Evil 4 called Ditman, found by a guy named Ditman back in the day on a forum. And so we were like, well, we'll just call this some kind of Ditman. What kind of Ditman isn't? We just called it Tandem because it's two people doing it. So
just kind of our funny layman's name for it, I guess.
Exactly. We didn't have any other like good name for it. We were just like, yeah, it's just
technical. Like I said, this kind of works based on the game trying to resync the characters, so I guess a good technical name for it would be something like a resync surfing or something like that. But it is very interesting, and it's noticeable when you do it. You can feel that you're moving faster, and you will clearly see here that what you see on each screen is different. So to get this set up, usually, like Auddy was saying, one of the players will usually have to pretty intentionally manipulate their position to be just perfectly in front or behind the other character.
You'll see me cut really hard here to get it initiated so that I'm in front of my screen and he's in front of his screen.
Yeah, like
I'll scoot back a little bit. And
there's usually something you have to do to very intentionally get it set up.
So I'm very much cutting left and like getting in front of him like that. And it makes it to where we're both ahead. And then I'm kicking door because I'm on host, so that's going to be a faster door kick than him kicking it. We actually activate the Tandem Ditman here as well for just this like little bit of running. So if I slow it down, we'll get to this reset here, and then you'll see I kind of slow down and like move over to the left real quick just to make sure that we're in it.
So and this greatly increases the overall difficulty of the run because you're having to very actively try to get this to work at so many different points now, and if you don't get it, you're just bleeding time. So we're resetting every time we fail to get that set up.
So I want to talk about this a little bit too. As we were doing these attempts, because we had already done Chapter 1-2, and then we had come back to Chapter 1-1. After knowing that Tandem Ditman was a thing, we were like, okay, wait, we can actually save more time because we had an 8:13, 8:12. You know, we were like, okay, let's see if we can push this even further type deal with the Tandem Ditman. And so as we were doing a lot of this, I was finding out that for some reason, if I do like a snaking type motion on the controller on the door rather than just trying to like go straight into the door. For some reason, I was able to get these prompts to like hit quicker. I don't know if that's an actual thing, but I'm going to start doing that from now on. And you can see here, I go left and I cut really hard right on this door, and it gives me like no X prompt.
And it's noticeable in that slow speed.
Yeah, it was like very quick. This door was a pain. This was one of the parts we had to reset on a lot, actually. Just this B door right here.
There are some things in this run that you just don't expect to be difficult. But you know, the trouble with these B doors is once you go through them, that's it. If you don't like the time you got, you have to start all over again from the beginning. Which is one of the great things about the auto splitter. The auto splitter is a big part of how we were able to achieve these times as well, is just having this data. Like when we would go through these B doors, for example, like we can just look and see the time and be like, no, that's not good enough. We have to start over.
And even more so, including the auto splitter, like we had, the times when we were comparing to our best segments, so some of best. I also had a spreadsheet of certain sections that don't have splits on them. So like parts where there's like a cutscene and I can see what the time was. And we had sub splits that were written down to be like, okay, this is how good or bad we're doing. We can reset this part too. Let's do that. But when it comes to this particular B door, Carp was having a hard time getting the B to actually like show up.
The prompt to show, yeah.
And so he would hit it, and then it wouldn't do anything, and then he would hit it again, and it would be like super late.
It would
like
lose vanish.
It was weird
For a moment.
So we started playing around with the door just to see how far this hitbox was, and I found out that I could actually go like fully into the corner of the door, and it would still give me a prompt. So I went not super far on this one, but enough to where I knew that like he had the full door. But literally, you can go all the way into this corner and not be anywhere near the door, and it'll still give it to you. So just know that that's a thing. So you can see, like, I'm not even like on the door, and it gave it to me. Yeah. But I could go even further over here, and it would give it to me.
Yeah, that was just a huge help, because the main issue for the trouble I was having there is when Sheva hits B on that door, she snaps into a fixed position, and if she's too far away from the side of the door, it doesn't give me a lot of real estate to work with, so that prompt can be a little tricky. So that was a big difference maker.
We're playing on 120, but there's a couple sections where we are going to switch to 60, and the reason we do that is for door kicks. On 120, there's maybe like 3 doors in the entire game that you could actually kick the other person through if you're both on 120. But if one person's on 60, then you can actually get them through. So we utilize that tech, and it does make the time a little slower, but not much. It's not like going from like 120 to 30. That's a pretty big difference. But from 120 to 60, you still lose a little bit of time, but it's still worth it to be able to get through here. Exactly.
And the nice thing here is, with me as non-host on Chris, I'm able to slip past that guy on the left, which I would not be able to do if I was host.
So this is actually something that Carp and I did on our 813 split screen years and years ago, and we still really haven't seen anyone else do this. Like, we could have swore we learned this from Snow, but for some reason we don't see them like doing that in like more recent videos and stuff. But we use this grenade to get a boost, and it helps a lot. It shaves off a good like 0.3 or something like that. It's significant. But you can see he throws the grenade out, and I get knocked into that cutscene. And then there's actually a couple things to talk about here. So he, like he said, he's able to slip past this guy here because he's non-host. Which normally, if I would have tried that as host, I'd have immediately gotten grabbed.
No, instantly.
It's bad.
It's night and day difference.
But he gets the door kick, and I slip through because I'm on 60. When I jump down here, what I'm doing is I'm actually already holding all the buttons to do a quick turn, and I'm actually releasing R to stop doing the quick turn, or like, the pulling up weapon motion to like throw or whatever. So I guess it's L, right?
Yeah.
So I let go of it on the frame. So instead of like trying to do it after I land, I'm like buffering it and then letting go on the very first frame. And you can see like it's like quick. Like I'm already there. I'm already facing that direction, and then I'm letting go.
Yeah, we're using that like buffer on a lot of these quick turns.
And then another thing that I'm doing here is I'm actually holding down the left bumper to focus on Chris, and then holding L to like aim at him instead of doing a double quick turn, which is what Carp has to do because there's no one, behind him to focus on. But it gets it to where he's like you can see I'm facing that direction on my screen. We're on like frame 1 of like, and I'm already like facing him. So he has to do a double quick turn, but I'm already there, and all I have to do is let go again. So I'm doing a buffer to be right behind him, and we want that because it's whoever's last here is going to make the difference. Because I'm host as well, it's going to give me a better, like a quicker response time of being like, oh, both people are in, because he's already so far in that it's like looking for host to be in instead of looking for non-host to be in. So the latency is going to be better. So that was like one reason we even had Sheva as the host character here, was because of this portion directly, like this part right here.
So it's basically as long as he's really fast to get to me and he's the second one in, that's what we're looking for.
So because he threw a grenade, he's going to go grab this grenade over here, so that way there's no like prompt for me to accidentally give him a grenade. And then I'm actually switching back. Yeah, it's perfect.
It just happens to be a hand grenade there. It'd be a huge pain otherwise.
And then I switch back to 120 because we don't need to be able to get through a door anymore, and we want the full like timer speed back.
Also convenient that you have time to do that.
Yeah, we have enough time to get the grenade and do the switch, and it's like perfect. We're not losing any time. And then this is the biggest part, though. If you want to talk about this, Carp, like this is where we figured out where we're going to save the most time on this chapter.
Yeah. So as we've said, we did 1-1 first. We got a 113.
813. Yeah.
Or 813 yet, and then we went and did 1-2, learned a bunch of things, and then came back here. So we were able to save way more time here learning how to do the resync shoving. And we made a big time save with that right at the beginning. But here as well, this was like the key for an 811 being possible after we had gotten an 812. It's possible for us to get it here. We don't quite get it. We get like a little bit of extra speed there because I nearly get ahead. But the main key here is me jumping down fast enough to where we can get it here. And that's really just completely based on Chris being really fast to the jump down here. So we're able to get it through this whole hallway, which was a huge time save, making the 811 possible.
So there's another part. So we get this activated, but like you can see, I have to kind of like manipulate it. I have to pause for like a brief second. So
yeah,
you'll see me like stutter step kind of. Like right there, I stop, and then I start going, just to make sure that I get
possible to do it a little bit better, and we have done it to where he didn't have to wait. But this was still enough of a time save, and if we had done it better, it still wouldn't get us any faster than an 811. So this was good enough.
Another thing we figured out was that getting non-host up this ladder is going to be better, just for the same reason that we just talked about with me getting through that doorway earlier. Is that if we can get him up there first and then get me to get on the B door second, it's going to say like it's looking for the host to be on, and because the other person's already on, it's just looking for me. It's not having to look for that latency of the other person. So me getting on second is actually beneficial here because it's going to like activate quicker. Like saying like, okay, they're both good.
This is kind of new. Everyone always assumed it was best for the host to go up the ladder because the host can get up the ladder quicker, which is true. But this is, again, another huge benefit of the auto splitter is we were able to test things like this. And we found if the host is the one to get on that door second, it's significantly faster. I think it was by like 0.3 faster compared to the non-host getting on second or something like that.
0.3-ish. Yeah, it was something stupid. So having host be second is beneficial if you can do it. So yeah, we'll just kind of play it now in full speed so you can see.
And it worked out very well with non-hosts going up the ladder, since like Sheva would get up the ladder here quicker, but it's not much slower. And that time loss is greatly mitigated by doing the speed war order.
He spams B there so that I can also spam B because I'm just responding to him rather than trying to say, like, come on. That's always a thing that, that's been known for years, but still need to do it. Now the classic rocket shot. This is another part where we use Tandem Ditman again. Like we make sure to activate it there. Like we can see he's in front, but I'm also in front on my screen, so that means it's going, and it gives us a little bit of a boost there.
And this is tricky because if you mess this up, there's no going back from it. You have to restart the whole chapter. So we spent a lot of time there making sure we got that rocket right. Just really sneaking up on the timing of it to just barely get Sheva through.
Another revelation that we discovered while doing this as well, and thanks to the auto splitter once again, and having that in-game timer actually on screen for us, is that you can actually reset this part even if you've gone through the gate. For years and years and years, we thought that if the executioner broke the gate and you went through it, that was it. Like, you couldn't reset, or the time was just going to be, like, ruined. Like, we were just under that impression. And then we found out, like, no, it resets back to normal. Like, yeah, we can just do it again.
It's really funny in hindsight that no one ever, like, tried to just test that.
We just kind of assumed that was
like
it.
If you had a bad run, you could have just tried. So...
anyways, I'm going to speed this up a little bit, but essentially what we do here is the classic, just you try and get two guys frozen by this gate. For some reason, that manipulates the X to swing at them, which then hits the gate and it breaks it open sooner. It's just a weird quirk with this particular chapter where it just works.
That's it. Magic is what it is.
It just works.
There's some things in this game that you can't really understand. And then we got two guys set up very well here. I want them right at the start of this gate.
I'm just looking for people that are behind us in case they start trying to come to like grab us or something like that. Then I get over here. He's going to hit a flash right before the cutscene hits. Shoot a little bit, and then the executioner should swing at those guys.
As you can see, he's here really fast. And once again, the auto splitter being a huge help, we were able to calculate a time that we knew we needed going through that gate for it to be an 8:11.
Yeah,
exactly. And as soon as we saw that, we knew we're good. We knew
if the gate broke on a 353 that like we had what we needed, and so
like
we were like, okay.
53, and we got that by a lot. So then we knew we're good. We just had to wait out the auto sequence, and that's an 8:11.
We just kind of messed around here.
Yeah, just a little having some fun, little celebration. It's a funny thing in 1-1 that you don't get anywhere else, where the time is achieved before the chapter ends.
Yeah, you already know what you have. Wait. Yeah, we left the X alive. I forgot about that. We were like, wait, he's still alive.
Forgot about him.
Like, what does he do?
It's funny that he just doesn't know what to do with himself once you go up there.
It's funny that they didn't program him to be able to climb anything, or like jump or like nothing.
That could be cheesed easily.
Yeah, no verticality for this guy.
It's too big.
Large. Looks like it's in slow motion now when it's regular speed. I love
Yeah.
it. It's like, man.
Yeah, it is kind of funny. We actually did this one after the 1-2 you're about to say. Only because, like we said, we learned some new things while doing 1-2 that we didn't know with our original 1-1 efforts.
So that is not just an untied, but a super untied, which a super untied is if you already have the untied record and then you get another record on top of that, that's classified as a super untied in like Goldeneye and Perfect Dark communities. So I kind of just use that since it's an individual level as well. Super untied by 3 seconds because no one else has a 8-13 like we did.
Which is surprising because that's very achievable without any of this new tech.
It's kind of crazy. But now we'll look at 1-2. And like you said, we did this one. I mean, technically we did 1-1 first. We got an 8-13. And then we were like, wait.
Yeah.
We can
I'm
do
just
better.
saying
So
this 1-1 we did after.
Yeah, this one was technically after, but back. What do we have? Let's see. It should say it here, right? Yeah. So we had a 246. So we did already untie there, and then we get in here, and so this is the part that we were watching from Chase's point of view, where we were like, okay, he's definitely doing something on purpose here, and that's how we figured out the Tandem Ditman.
Yeah, because we realized he was waiting intentionally and then cutting in front of Chris.
Yep.
Like, that was the big thing, as we noticed. He was very purposefully waiting for Chris at some points. And this was huge because we both get to the speed gate immediately, where without that tech, Sheva gets there way before Chris.
Oh, yeah. Big time. So I'm switching to 60 FPS here because we're going to be doing some door kicks. We tested all of these whenever we were looking at, should we use 120 or should we use 60? Do we need these door kicks? Do we not? We timed everything. We found out that doing the door kick, at least on the second door, was yes. That was faster than just doing everything on 120. This first door kick you don't actually need to do. It was more me doing it just because it's an easier way for me to get set up on the second door because I'm already ahead. So you don't technically need this. It's just beneficial for whoever's getting kicked through later to get set up in a good position. And you want to cut like really hard left here just to get that cutscene, like to activate. So you can see I like really hard, like start turning left like that. That gets it.
Yeah, even for Chris, I start going that direction. Yep. I don't know if it matters, but.
So we're not able to activate Tandem Ditman there, but that's a spot that would be huge if you could get it. But we do activate it here, and this was a part that we saw them also doing, and we were like, oh, okay, so this is in multiple spots. This isn't just a beginning area type glitch or something. Like, this is something we can do throughout the run.
Anytime that you're in close enough proximity to get it without having to wait forever.
So I'm on 60 still, so I'm able to get through this door. I turn, I wait on purpose for him, and then get cut in perfectly to where he's ahead and I'm ahead, and it's activated. So,
and you can really see that cut from your perspective. You really pop in there.
And I'm trying to fight. You can see the hitbox really pushing me left. So I'm actually pointing like up right. You can see it on like my little triangle here too. Like I'm pushing up and right to try to like stay in there because it's pushing me out. Yeah. You can physically feel it.
It's very hostile for the non-host.
It is
trying
crazy.
to maintain that. Now this section was by far and away the toughest section of the whole chapter 1.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's funny because it's because of the discovery of the Tandem Ditman. This was already a kind of a hard section, but not terribly hard. But once we found the Tandem Ditman, it made things much more difficult here.
So this is tech that's been known forever, but we'll kind of talk about it. One person is going to shoot a rocket way over here, and that's going to blow open a locked door. It's got a lock on it, and it just blows it off there. Then you want to try to shoot the person who's going up the stairs with a grenade launcher so that it knocks them up there quicker. Doesn't save like a huge amount of time, but it's, significant enough to where you definitely want to do it. I think we calculated it to be like 0.15 maybe or something like that. But still, every point anything when you're trying to get these types of times is huge, and they stack.
A big difference.
So
it's a lot of work for that small of a time save, but it's what you need to try to get a 245.
And we're both on 120 here because there's no door kick. So right here, this is this is the hardest part of either of these chapters. It was terrible. So we have to try to get the Tandem Ditman activated from here. And because Chris is going to be behind me every single time after I've kicked the door, like he's not able to get a door kick, there's no way. We have to try to like manipulate it on these stairs. I have to go really far right. He has to try to cut in really far left, and we have to meet in the middle at some point.
Force my way in here, and you can see I'm really actively trying to push my way in.
So he's pushing up right. I'm pushing up left, and we're just trying to I'm trying to get ahead, and he's trying to get ahead. So he gets ahead, he slips ahead, and I slip ahead, and I'm like, okay. And then he tells me every time, he's like, okay, we're in. Because for me, I'm always ahead. Like, I have no idea. But he knows whenever he's ahead, he's like, okay, we're in there. And so at that point, we can go.
One other point here, too, if you go back to where you kick the door, is the key for setting this up that we found. I was having a very hard time squeezing my way in here. The key we found is that I want to be really far right on this door. Like this when he kicks it, and then cut in left.
Yeah, you can see he's already angled at a good leftward angle.
I spent a lot of time starting left on the door, and that was not working very well to get this set up. And then this was a big problem.
So on 120, you get stuck on a lot of things. There's a lot of imaginary walls and just things that come out and grab you, and you get stuck on nothing, on air. And this was a part that can happen on big time, the woman, the door, each other. I mean, there's just several things, but you try to squeeze by here at the perfect time. So you can see I even stop for a second to try to.
You have to stutter to allow this to get set up correctly.
You can see on my screen it looks like Chris got hit.
Yeah.
And
then I just warp in.
Yeah, and so. And then on his screen, you can see I'm behind the lady, stuck on her, but I'm not. Yeah. And then
this is what we were saying. It's what you're seeing is not always true for the other person.
So unfortunately, we lost the Tandem Ditman here, but that doesn't matter as much because we were able to get it at the other part, and getting past that woman in general, just cleanly for both of us, is more important. So we were whatever, dude.
There, it's really difficult for both people to get through there cleanly. So this part was just extremely difficult because there are just several fail points on top of each other. You have to hit that rocket and grenade successfully. You have to do them really fast. Then you have to successfully get in front of each other on the stairs and then not get screwed up at the door. It's just a lot of pieces needed to come together here. And without the Tandem Ditman part, this wasn't nearly as hard, but once this part was introduced, everything became a lot more difficult. It happened so fast, but it was a lot of work to be able to get all of that in one segment.
There was so many times where, we would get to the door where the woman kicks it open and it wasn't open. She didn't kick it. Or we'd get it and then one of us would get through and the other one wouldn't. And then it was bad. And we sat there forever. Properly
losing our minds on that part.
So on this part, I needed to switch to 60 because there's a door kick that happens. But this part was another part where we tried to get some Tandem Ditman going, but it wasn't really feasible. We were trying to get it here, but it just wasn't Chris wasn't in a position to do that, so we just were okay, well, it's not going to work. So this first part, whoever's going to be going up the ladder first, it's all dependent on them. and their movement, and I get like a really, really sick turn on this quick turn right here. Probably the best one I've ever done.
Yes, it's
Like
extremely smooth.
it was really good. And
And
so
this
that allowed me to
owes
get here.
partly to you being on 60, allows some smoother movement.
Yes.
And then this part's all on Chris's movement up here, which is difficult because there's lots of really sharp turns with these pillars. It's actually very hard to get a clean line.
There's also been times where you've gotten stuck because he's on 120 and I'm
Yeah.
not, so these pillars will grab him.
I got the 120 nerf.
Yeah. And there was a thing, we know that Snow will like to stay off the door here, like, and hit B at the very last second. Like, he'll actually get on the left side, or I'm sorry, the Chase will, as Sheva, he'll get over here, and that way Chris can go onto the right side and hit the door. But what we found out after testing that is it's actually way slower. It's significantly slower because having one person already set on the door and having that ready is significantly better than having the game try to check for two readies. So I'm not exactly sure how this game's logic works, but in my mind, as like a programmer, if I was going to program this, I'm looking to say, okay, is person one ready? 0 or 1, like yes or no. And once it's already a yes, then it's not having to check that anymore and not having to use up cycles to like check that.
Yeah, it might be checking for host and then checking for non-host like on a cycle. So it might need to process that host is on there before it can even begin to process non-host being on there.
Exactly. It's like we don't know how the logic is, but
with non-host taking longer to process, that issue's really exasperated.
So if you both are waiting and hit it at like the same time, like yes, like visually it looks faster because you're like, oh, like Chris has a better line. He gets to go to the right of the door instead of the left. But the game is actually going to process it slower. And we found that out like big time here. We timed it and we were like, oh wow, this is like losing like, you know, like again, like a 0.3 or 0.2 or like something stupid like that. It was like significant. Yeah. So we were like, okay, yeah, screw that. I'm just going to get on the door. So that was another revelation from the having the in-game timer on screen all the time and being able to calculate that stuff and write it down.
Yeah, it can't be overstated. Like it's the live splitter's a huge part of what made these times possible just because of the data we were able to gather.
And for anyone trying to use this, like the segmented, so that was where the door kick came into place for me to be on 60. But the live split, like auto splitter that's in there right now, the segmented version that is like, you know, you check for segmented, doesn't actually work well. It doesn't work like it's supposed to. It doesn't calculate it the way it needs to be calculated on the screen to see like what the in-game time. I think it like resets back on each like section or something like that on each split. That's why I had to go in and modify it myself because I had one back in the past that we used for a little bit. And once we got back on this game, I was like, all right, I need to like actually go remake that with the new auto splitter version. So just be aware if you're trying to use this, it doesn't actually work in the one that's on the GitHub and inside Live Split right now. You have to modify it. Anyways, Carp's sitting here practicing because this shot is.
Should have made it on a reset so it wasn't in the video, but I needed to make sure this rocket was right for the end during the Ouroboros because if you do it too fast, you'll just throw your grenade and then the whole run's over because you can't reset that part. So there's a lot of pressure on that shot.
So once again, we're going to activate Tandem Ditman here. This is another part we found that you can do it. So I kind of pause for a second and then really cut hard right to get set up. And then we're in there.
And this door kick we got.
Go ahead.
We figured out some stuff. What's your setup for it? I don't
the thing
really
with this,
know your part.
You can actually get through this door being on 120. You see that I'm on 60, and you may think, oh, that's why. It's actually for the door after this. It's for the very last door. This you can actually get through on 120, but you have to kind of like a pause, and Carp can talk about that. But for me, I just get far left, and then I have to curve back into the right and be like facing straight forward, like that. And then whenever he goes to do the kick, then that's when it like sends me through. So you have to be like actually facing like parallel, like, you know, or like I guess perpendicular with the door, like fully like straight forward. You can't be going like left, right, whatever. But I curve in left at the get go just to get him room to be able to get on the door, and then I like curve back in.
Yeah. Now this in itself is nothing new. What's new is if you watch my perspective, I actually intentionally slow push this door for a moment before kicking it.
Mm-hmm. I'll
And
play
this
it at full speed.
allowed Sheva to get through even faster than normal. For some reason.
Yeah.
Like you can actually see he's like through that door well before it opens. It looks strange.
It does. And we knew this was one of those times where we could see the time, like, oh, okay, we got a good time here. If not, we would reset, and we're looking at this like detail timer a lot. But we're like, okay, this is the one.
And then I just had to not mess up the rocket shot. And to be honest, I even did it a bit slow, like just to really make sure, because if you mess that up, all the effort you've put into this run is wasted. You have to start over.
And we did have one of those when we were going for the 8-12,
Yes.
and it was
did happen.
heartbreaking. Like we were like, oh, but yeah.
So I was not having a repeat.
So I come in and I get on the door like far left to put in that key as quick as possible. Stop spamming X so that he can come through, and then we just get this final door kick here.
And that's where that 60
that's the run.
FPS comes in.
Nope. So I get through, get on the elevator. It's done deal. Luckily, both Chapter 1.1 and 1.2, now that we've seen what our some of bests are and stuff, there's no possible way of getting like another second, at least from what we can tell. We got a 0.65 here, and so it's like, okay, we can't shave off a whole another 0.7.
Yeah. On both of these, there is a very small amount of time that's possible to save, but fortunately for us and our sanity, it's not possible to save quite enough to get another second barrier.
So now this is a super untied once again by 2 seconds. 2:47 is the closest, and then I'll come back here and kind of show you the leaderboard one more time, just so you can see like where we stand. We are actually the first ever sub 11 in terms of Chapter 1, and we have it by 3 seconds. The times you see up above this are all cheated times in some way, shape, or form. But this is J right here. It's an 11:05. I'm pretty sure Snow has like maybe like an 11:02 or 3, something like that, maybe. But we are the first team to have a sub 11 Chapter 1 on any platform. This is all done on Steam. So hopefully that helps some of you guys figure out how we're saving this time. And as we go forward, we're obviously going to be looking for more and more places to use this Tandem Ditman, and just to see like how much time we can shave off every single chapter and see what we can do with it.